Listen, I have been dead for 3,000 years, and let me tell you, power doesn't decay. You think charisma is about being nice? Ridiculous. It is a ritual, it is a shadow. Listen closely or stay invisible forever.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into charisma, a power so potent it can build nations or tear them completely apart. I know, it's a really provocative question, right? But the answer gets at something incredibly powerful and sometimes really dangerous. It's a quality that connects these two men, even though they stood for completely opposite things. You see, both men, for better or for much, much worse, were absolute masters of charisma. We're talking about that magnetic pull, that something that lets a person inspire, captivate, and command the total devotion of thousands, even millions. So, what is charisma, really? Well, at its core, it's this powerful mix of charm, passion, and just raw persuasiveness. The sociologist Max Weber, he had a great take on this. He saw it as a quality that just sets someone apart from the rest of us, making them seem almost superhuman, like they have some kind of special power that just pulls people in. And this is the kind of charisma we admire, right? Think about someone like Cesar Chavez. His passion was just electric, and he had this incredible gift for connecting with ordinary people. That's what fueled the entire United Farm Workers movement. It's a perfect example of charisma being used as a real force for good. But what happens when that exact same magnetic power gets twisted and used for much, much darker purposes? And this is the terrifying flip side. I mean, the very same qualities that can bring people together for a good cause can be warped to manipulate them into doing the most horrific things imaginable. Just look at Jim Jones and the People's Temple. It's a chilling, chilling example. So, you see, the big takeaway here is that charisma itself isn't good or bad. It's really just a tool. It can inspire, sure, but it can also manipulate. That incredible self-confidence that seems so captivating, on the dark side, that can easily curdle into some really toxic narcissism. You know, when you look back, history is like a gallery filled with these kinds of figures. You've got your heroes and your villains, and so many of them were using the exact same power, just aiming it in completely different directions. Take Nelson Mandela. He once said, "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society." And he used his incredible charisma to fuel a global movement against apartheid, even while he was in prison for 27 years. His dignity, his unwavering focus, it turned him into a living symbol of resistance and, eventually, reconciliation. And then you have the complete opposite, David Koresh. He used his charisma to take total control of the Branch Davidian cult. He absolutely mesmerized his followers with these intense Bible studies and a magnetic personality. He convinced them he was a prophet, which led to him taking child brides and, ultimately, to the deaths of 76 people, many of them children, in that tragic fire. Or think about Gandhi. He was actually shy at first, but he found this incredibly charismatic voice in his fight for justice. With just simple acts and powerful words, he could captivate huge crowds. He mobilized an entire nation to peacefully win their independence. His power was his absolute, personal commitment to the cause. And then there's Hitler. He tapped into the humiliation Germany felt after World War I and promised them redemption. His speeches were electric, his rallies were these huge staged events, and it all created this almost godlike devotion. And he took all that energy and channeled it into a horrifying ideology of racial supremacy that, as we all know, led straight to genocide in World War II. So the question is, how does this actually work? What are the nuts and bolts of charisma? Well, it turns out it's not just some mystical thing. You can actually break it down. Yeah, charisma isn't magic. It actually rests on 3 pillars, and believe it or not, they can be learned. First up is presence. You know that feeling when someone makes you feel like you're the only person in the room? That's presence. Second is power. This is the perception that they can actually affect the world and get things done. And third is warmth. This is about projecting goodwill and empathy. It's what makes their power feel approachable and safe. But wait a second, this seems like a paradox, doesn't it? Presence, power, warmth. I mean, these all sound like good things. So how can they lead people to do terrible things? Well, the answer isn't in the traits themselves, but in the psychological environment the leader creates with them. And this is exactly what researchers are digging into now. They're starting to look past that heroic, idealized image of the charismatic leader to really understand the potential for bad outcomes, that dark side that, frankly, has been overlooked for way too long. Okay, so one of the key mechanisms here is something called psychological safety. Charismatic leaders are experts at this. They make their followers feel completely safe and supported. They create this belief that it's okay to speak up, to take risks, even to make mistakes, because the group has your back. But here's the twist. That really powerful feeling of safety can actually lower people's inhibitions, and it can lead them to do things they normally wouldn't, something researchers call unethical pro-organizational behavior. Basically, that means bending or even breaking the rules, not for themselves, but for what they believe is the good of the group or the cause. Okay, and this is where it gets really fascinating. High-performance pressure basically supercharges this entire effect. In a low-pressure situation, having that psychological safety doesn't really push people to do unethical things. But when you crank up the pressure to succeed, that same feeling of safety can become like a license to do whatever it takes to win. All right, let's pull all these threads together. What does this all mean for us, when we run into a charismatic person in the real world? So if you remember one thing, let it be this. Charisma is a tool. It's not a virtue. It's built on those 3 pillars: presence, power, and warmth. It's great at creating that sense of psychological safety, but that safety can absolutely be exploited to encourage bad behavior, especially when the pressure is high. It can build or break, inspire or manipulate. So the next time you find yourself totally captivated by a leader, ask yourself, are you seeing the charm or are you seeing the tool? Because being able to tell the difference, well, that's a crucial skill for all of us. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.